it's not a long list, you know, the ones that are really respected.
Yeah, and not only that, but
and silent running's one of them. You know,
silent running is one of them. Silent running is one of them.
You know, if you
I think what it says is like it's what it is regardless, because you know the thing is the technology is gonna get dated, the techniques are gonna be dated, and the art direction to a certain extent is gonna be dated and pegged. Okay, but the question becomes is, did you create a world that was real onto itself, and in order. And like, did you create a world that had laws,
and where people,
that obeyed the laws, that the
it.
people acted logically that they had stakes in, that they
and where was the audience moved by it?
And that is all that, at the end of the day, that is what makes great science fiction last. Frankenstein, you know, will never get old. It doesn't matter how you retell it, just because the story there does all those things. It creates
King
a little
Kong,
world.
The original,
King
never
Kong
will get old.
Creates its own little world.
Metropolis never get old. You know?
Again, you
Silent
see what I'm saying?
Running, you know,
is in that class.
George
it really
Powell's
is.
The Time Machine. You know,
I love the Time Machine. Yeah, it's in that class because you really do. They do successfully take you to another place when you watch these movies, and that is what marks great science fiction films. You know what I mean? It's like how successfully did they do that? You know, I'm a big fan of. For instance, as I was mentioning earlier, I'm a big fan of the Doctor Who television program. Okay, one of the reasons I'm a fan of that is because they managed to, no matter how hokey the special effects are or how fakey they are.
But that kind of adds to the charm of it.
It adds to the charm because, and not only that, but the question is, the question you got to ask yourself is this: at the end of the day, when you're watching old science fiction, is, am I able to imagine what they want me to imagine? Am I able to see things through their eyes? Am I able to understand where I am? Who are the people in relation to each other? Where people are and what they're doing and why.
And did I enjoy it?
And did I have a fun time? Did I enjoy it on whatever level? And it's like if you do all those things, you're going to have a great show. And silent running does all those things, I think.
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about silent running, you know, I'd like to get back on the robots a little bit.
Sure.
But, you know, one person said really stuck with me. He said they made the robots non-anthropomorphic, but the most human at the same time.
They were very human.
You know, the whole idea of technology is human because it's made by humans, and we make it to have human characteristics.
Exactly. And the other thing is that's also brilliant on the part of the filmmakers is the robots are silent. And so
they have feelings.
But when something is silent, though, you see, when they've done studies, for instance,
they have flashlights and beep, but
but I'm saying,
but they don't talk.
No, they don't talk. And what they said is, what they found in studies, for instance, is that when someone's looking at a picture of a person's face that's showing no emotion, okay, what that person will do is project the emotion they are feeling onto that person's face. And similarly, with a silent actor, what you're doing is the audience is projecting their emotion onto that actor.
Onto the robots.
Onto the robots, because the robots are these silent participants. So they could be anyone and everything. You know, they're able to take on whatever persona that person's mind. That's why they're so affecting, is because they're one of these characters that requires the audience to meet the character halfway and invest in that character, because he's not going to say anything. It's totally it has no lines.
Noises. But the thing is,
the noises are just little clicks and whirs, and
but Lowell seems to understand what they're saying, but he doesn't explain it to the rest of us, and that sucks us in. You see what I mean?
Well, not only that, but it's and when you say noises, don't mistake this for like an R2-D2 sound where it's very
much more subtle.
It's hard to hear. You know, it's like.
I think it's like
it's kind of a staticky almost sound.
Well, I think what they used was a kazoo, one of those things for it.
So it's very, but it's very described as minimalist. It's not even anything that you could recognize as like. It doesn't go like it doesn't make any sounds like that where it's like a tell that it's beeping loud, so it must be mad. It's like no, the noises that these things make are totally like machine type noises that would just be a part of its functioning, you know.
What are those little kids things that they blow, or they're called kazoos or something?
Kazoo,
But that's what they use to make that sound.
The
so
but you can barely hear it. You can barely hear it.
But that sucks you in even more, you know.
Right.
Because it doesn't beat you over the head.
No, it's not. Nothing in this movie really beats you over the head, except for like the nuclear bombs.
That beats you over the head. But you know, one of the things that's interesting. One of my teachers, he's an environmentalist. He was watching the movie Silent Running for the first time. And he was actually yelling at the screen as he was watching this movie.
I'm sure.
As they're blowing up the trees.
Exactly. Because make no mistake, they blow up most of them.
All but one don't.
All he manages to save is one. So that means that all of those, except for just one little area of the Earth, was actually destroyed. So it's like that's a downer right there.
But the fact that there's still that hope there. You see what I'm saying?
There's still the hope of there's that one forest left.
But the funny thing was as he was watching this, he was actually yelling at the screen. You know, to Bruce Dern, who you can see was obviously upset by what's going on, and he's screaming at the TV, "Kill them!" The TV, kill them.
If you feel, that's what I'm saying. This movie has,
he said to the screen, as Dern's, doing the plants, he actually says to him, you love the trees, you love the forest, you should say no to this.
Yeah,
and then, when he said that, Dern sticks his head up like he heard him and says, "No!" And he grabs a shovel.
Well, make no mistake, like you were saying, this is a movie that definitely has a very environmentalist point of view and message, and it makes no bones about it, really.
And it's a cult classic, and that's not necessarily an insult or a bad thing, because a classic by definition is a film that appeals to the majority, appeals to the masses.
Yeah. So,
but I'm saying, it's your cult classics are the films that are more daring and innovative, and not necessarily worse films than the classics. In some ways, maybe even better.
I like that era. I like that type of cinema much more than I like recognized.
The films that take risks. This one takes huge risks.
They take big risks, and they're not afraid to do things differently. They're not afraid to. But
it's interesting for me to see how some people would be completely for Bruce Dern, and some people would be completely against him, and some people are like, "Yeah, I didn't like the forest being destroyed, but I thought it was wrong to kill the crew." Kind of in the middle.
Well, you wonder. Well, the thing is like this. As I was watching it, I was obviously what occurs to me watching it is that, like I said, I only watched it last year, so I'm watching it with more modernist take on it. And what I'm saying is, okay, obviously we need to stop this being the destruction of the forest, okay? But is it necessary to kill these guys to do it? I mean, can't we figure out a way maybe to trap them or maybe to lock them up someplace? But he really, he kills, and so like that's where you're like, okay, this guy is, once he decides to do that, he's pretty ruthless in the way he does it. So it's like at this point, that's where the ambiguity really comes into play. Now, at the time it was made, there would be even more
about ambiguity if you think about it.
It is.
They never make it clear who the captain is in this film. You think about it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you never really know who was doing it.
You don't know what happened back on Earth.
If anybody was.
There's huge. There are all kinds of things, and the ambiguity of the ending.
Right.
Some people saw it; they thought it was a very sad ending. Other people watched it; they thought it was a very hopeful ending. The movie doesn't really say. It leaves it up in the air.
What's great about it?
Did they find the last forest at the end?
The ending is interesting. The ending is interesting because the one thing I was talking to my brother about was because he saw this movie and he was saying we were actually kind of having a laugh about it. It's like. Bruce, and then it also ends with Bruce Dern blowing himself up.
Yeah.
Okay, so it ends with the main character dying, which in and of itself is very rare. It's